wasn't a dream. It wasn't a vision. It was real. One moment, I was tightening a bolt on the old machine at the factory, my mind lost in thoughts about the bills at home and whether there'd be coffee left in the thermos for lunch. And the next, nothing. Just a strange spinning feeling, like the world had tipped sideways. My heart felt like it clenched and paused. Then, darkness soft and total swallowed everything. But I was still there, standing, aware, conscious. And I was watching myself. Yes, watching my own body on the cold concrete floor. My coworkers rushed toward me, calling my name, panic in their voices. One of them dropped to his knees, pressing his hands to my chest, starting CPR. Another one screamed something I couldn't understand into a phone, but none of it mattered. Because I wasn't in that body anymore. I was standing beside it. It was the most disorienting and profound thing I've ever experienced. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. I tried to touch someone, but my hands passed through them like smoke. And yet, I didn't feel afraid. Confused, yes. In awe, absolutely, but not afraid. Instead, I felt free. No more weight on my shoulders. No pain. No tired feet or tight muscles from long shifts. Just a strange lightness, like I had left behind everything that once held me down. Everything around me seemed to shift. The noise of the machines, the heavy air of the factory, even the smell of grease and metal, all of it faded. And then came silence. Not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels full. A silence that listens, that speaks without words. And in that silence, something shimmered. It wasn't coming from above or from behind. It was simply there, a presence, a light. Not like sunlight, not like electricity. This light felt alive. It pulsed gently, as if breathing, and it wrapped itself around me in warmth, peace, love. The kind of love that asks nothing in return. It was then that I knew. This was not the end. I hadn't died. I had woken up to something far more real than anything I'd ever known. A realm without time, without noise, without weight. And I was not alone. The light moved it invited me. And I followed, not with my feet, but with something deeper, something that felt like surrender and trust. I was being drawn somewhere, gently pulled by a presence that felt both familiar and greater than anything I had ever encountered. And then, as if stepping into a memory I had forgotten, I felt him. Even before I saw him, I knew it was him. The warmth intensified. The light grew stronger, yet never blinding. It comforted my soul like a father's arms after a long, lost journey. And then, there he was. Jesus. Not a picture, not a statue, not a story from Sunday school, not even a vision like I'd imagined during the few quiet moments of prayer I used to offer when life felt overwhelming. He stood before men not of flesh and blood, but of light and essence. Not less real, more. Radiating a peace I didn't know existed and a love that saw straight through every layer of who I was. He didn't speak, not with words, but when his eyes met mine, something inside me broke open. And I remembered who I was. All the years of struggling, of waking up at 5 a.m. for a job I'd grown numb to. All the times I snapped at my wife out of stress. All the moments I forgot to say, I love you. All the dreams I had buried because life was just too heavy. He saw them all. He saw me. And still, there was no judgment. Only love. The kind of love that doesn't excuse who you are, but reminds you of who you've always been and who you still can become. Tears, though I had no eyes, flowed from a place deeper than the body. They were not of sorrow, but of return, like the lost son who suddenly found his way back home. Jesus looked at me, not with pity, not with disappointment, but with deep, fatherly tenderness. And in that moment, I felt something awaken, something ancient, something eternal. He spoke not with a voice, but directly into the space of my soul. You forgot who you are, Jose, but I never did. It struck me with such clarity that I couldn't hold myself together. And yet, I was being held by his gaze, by the light, by the truth that had always lived inside me, but had been buried under the dust of years and fear and routine. That moment standing outside of time, outside of my body, face to face with the divine changed everything. But it was only the beginning. What came next would shake my understanding of life, death, and what really happens to the soul when we leave this earth. Before we move on, can I ask something from the heart? If this story touched something deep inside you, I invite you to be part of our community of light. Click like on this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the rest of this journey. And please leave a comment with your name and city. I would love to send you a special blessing in the next video. You are not alone on this path. We are walking it together. There are moments when the soul recognizes truth, not because it is told, but because it remembers. I floated, if that's even the right word, in a space that seemed to hold no walls, no floor, no ceiling, and yet I felt cradled, as if the universe itself had become a sanctuary just for me. The noise of the world was gone. No more clanging metal, no shouts, no sirens, only stillness. And in that stillness, I felt him. Jesus. Not in theory, not in spirit, but present. He wasn't walking toward me. He was already there. He wasn't appearing. He had always been, as if I had simply opened a door that had never been locked, and he had been waiting on the other side with infinite patience. He was light, but not the kind that hurts the eyes. His presence was warmth, but not heat. His form was visible, but beyond anything flesh could hold. It was as if his very being was made of love-dense, golden, radiant love. And when he looked at me, I collapsed inside. Because in that gaze, every part of me was seen. Not just the man I had become, but the boy I once was, the child who used to dream, the son who prayed beside his grandmother and whispered thanks before falling asleep, the man who had stopped believing that such purity still mattered in a world so harsh. His eyes showed, do I explain them? They weren't just eyes, they were stories, oceans, eternity. They didn't just see you, they entered you, gently, lovingly. And when they did, there was nothing left to hide. No shame could survive, no fear could remain. And yet, there was no judgment, only mercy. He didn't ask me about my sins. He didn't list my failures. He didn't speak of rules broken or commandments forgotten. He said only this: Jose, do you remember why you came to Earth? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mind raced through memories of factory floors, coffee-stained shirts, tired kisses at the door, arguments over money, the wear and tear of a life lived on survival mode. But my soul wept, because deep inside, I did remember. I came to love, to serve, to be a vessel of light in small, quiet ways. I just forgot. He never blamed me. In his presence, blame didn't exist. Only understanding, compassion, a soft reminder that the world teaches us to forget, but heaven forever calls us back to the truth. And then, he moved not with steps, but with intention. And suddenly, everything around me shifted. The air grew clearer, or perhaps I had become clearer. The space opened, and before me, like a divine screen, scenes of my life began to unfold. It wasn't just the big things, not only the births, the funerals, the milestones, it was the little things. Me, giving a sandwich to a stranger without telling anyone. Me, yelling at my wife and then silently crying about it hours later, wishing I had done better. Me, holding my child's hand at the hospital, whispering a prayer I didn't even believe in at the time. Me, closing my eyes at night and wondering if my life had meant anything at all. Every moment, every tear, every laugh, every silence, it was all there. And beside me, Jesus watched not as a judge, but as a friend who had walked with me through it all, unseen but present. He didn't need to say a word. His expression said it all. I was there, even when you thought you were alone. That truth shattered something in me. Because for years, I thought no one noticed, that my pain was wasted, that my efforts were too small, that my prayers hit a ceiling and disappeared. But he had seen every step, every stumble, every time I held back my anger, every time I chose kindness when it would have been easier not to, every time I reached for hope even when I didn't feel it. I looked at him, trembling in whatever form my soul now had, and whispered not with lips, but with all that I was, I'm sorry I forgot. His answer was simple. Then remember now. And in that instant, it was as if a seed inside me cracked open. The truth wasn't that I had failed. The truth was that I was loved through it all. And the purpose of my life? It wasn't to be perfect. It wasn't to be famous. It wasn't to build a legacy made of stone or gold. It was to love, to forgive, to lift other seven, if only once, even if only with a smile. As the vision of my life began to fade, I sensed something even deeper was about to unfold. Something about the soul's true journey beyond this encounter. A whisper echoed through the silence, drawing me forward. Something I had yet to see. Something that would change the way I understood not only life, but what lies after it. If you're still here, it means this message was meant for you. Please, leave a like if this touched your heart and comment Amen to receive a special blessing today. Also tell us which city you live in, so we can include your name and your city in our prayers. You are part of this light-filled community, and we are grateful for you. There are truths that can only be seen when the heart is stripped bare, when all the noise of the world fades and only the eternal remains. I stood in a space that was neither heaven nor earth, but something in between. Time no longer moved forward, it revealed. The presence of Jesus beside me was not static. It was alive, expanding, flowing like a current of peace that pulled me deeper into understanding. And then, without a word spoken, he gestured gently with his hand. What opened before me was not a door, but a vision vivid, overwhelming, sacred. It was my life. Not as I remembered it, but as heaven had seen it. Scene after scene unfolded like pages in a book only God could write, each moment framed in a light that revealed its true weight, its silent consequences. I saw things I had forgotten, tiny acts of kindness, quiet sacrifices, little decisions made with love that rippled far beyond what I could imagine. A simple smile I gave to a stranger, a hug to my son when he thought no one cared, a word of comfort whispered to a colleague who never told me he was on the edge of giving up. But I also saw the other moments, the ones I wanted to forget, the silences that should have been apologies, the judgments I passed without knowing someone's pain, the bitterness I allowed to grow in corners of my heart because it was easier than healing. And yet, Jesus never turned away. He watched it all with unwavering presence and or cold, not punishing, but like a father who sees the bruises on his child's soul and still reaches out, arms open, eyes tender. There was no condemnation in him, only invitation. An invitation to see my life as it truly was, meaningful, even in its messiness, beautiful, even in its brokenness, important, even when I thought I was invisible. He showed me that nothing is wasted. No act of love goes unnoticed. No tear falls without being caught. No prayer, no matter how desperate or doubting, is ever unheard. And in the quiet that followed, I felt him ask not with pressure, but with profound clarity. What will you do now, Jose, with what has been shown to you? I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. My soul was overwhelmed by the sacredness of it all. But deep inside, something was stirring, something that felt like a flame being reignited after years of smoke and ashes. I realized that I had been living on the surface of life, surviving, functioning, but not feeling, not truly living. And now that I had seen the eternal significance behind every little moment, I couldn't go back. I didn't want to go back. Jesus didn't promise me a perfect life. He didn't say I would never fall again. But he placed a knowing in my heart, a certainty that every day I still had on this earth was a gift, and every breath was a new chance to love deeper, serve better, live fully. Not for appearances, not for success, but for the soul. For the things that echo in eternity. Then, just when I thought the vision was ending, I was shown something I never expected. Others. People whose lives had been touched by mine. Some I had known. Others I had only crossed paths with briefly. I saw how a single kind word had softened a hardened heart. How a small gesture had changed the direction of someone's day and, in some cases, even their destiny. Tears filled my spirit once more, because I had spent so many years believing I didn't matter, that my existence was ordinary, that my actions were too small to mean anything. But now, in this holy unveiling, I saw the truth. Every life is a thread in a divine tapestry, and mine had a purpose. It always had. And yours does too. Jesus turned to me once more, his eyes filled with light and knowing, and said not in words, but in essence, "Your purpose is not ahead of you, Jose. It's within you. It always has been." And just like that, I began to feel a shift, a gentle pull, as if something new was coming, a deeper revelation, a truth I had not yet been shown. The air changed, the light moved, and I knew something even greater was about to be revealed. The light began to dim, but not as if fading, more like making room. Room for understanding, room for transformation, room for what comes next. I could feel it. Something in me had changed permanently. I was no longer the same man who tightened bolts at the factory, numbed by routine, lulled by the ticking clock of another ordinary day. I was no longer just Jose, the tired husband, the silent dreamer, the forgotten soul. I was more. Not because I had done something extraordinary, but because I had remembered who I truly was. Jesus stood before me one last time. His eyes still shimmered with that unshakable tenderness. His presence, though radiant and divine, felt even more familiar now, like a home I never knew I had missed. There was no rush in his movements, no urgency in his voice, and yet, what he communicated held the weight of eternity. "Jose," he said, "this is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of your awakening." I understood. I wasn't meant to stay. I wasn't meant to remain in that realm of light and peace. Not yet. I had work to do, life to live, love to give. He stepped closer and placed his hand on my shoulder. That single gesture held all the strength of heaven and all the softness of a mother's embrace. In that touch, I felt a transfer, a sealing of a promise, a mission, a calling. "Go back," he whispered, "and carry this light with you. Let it flow through everything you do, every smile, every word, every act of kindness. Be a bridge between what you saw here and the world still waiting to wake up." There were no fireworks, no dramatic send-off, only a deep inhale. And then I woke up, back in my body, back in the factory. The faces of my coworkers hovering over me, blurred by my tears, the pain in my chest, the cold of the floor, the weight of gravity. It was all real again. But so was everything I had seen. The doctors called it a near-death experience, a cardiac arrest followed by resuscitation. But I knew better. I hadn't just died. I had been shown the truth of life, shown the heart of God, shown my purpose. From that day on, I couldn't live the same way. I began to look people in the eyes again. I listened more. I judged less. I started saying, "I love you," without needing a reason. I forgave. I asked for forgiveness. I hugged longer. I prayed not out of fear, but out of gratitude. Because now, I knew. Life is not about achievements or survival. It's not about fame, fortune, or control. Life is about love, about connection, about awakening to the sacred in the ordinary. And the soul, the soul doesn't wander after death. It rises. It is received, guided with care and purpose. You are never alone, not in your joy, not in your pain, not even in your final breath. You are seen, you are known, you are deeply loved. And if you've read this far, maybe this message was meant for you. Maybe today is not just another day. Maybe this is your moment to remember who you are too. Because the light I saw, it still shines, and it's waiting for you to follow it. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If this story stirred something in your heart, I invite you to become part of our loving community. Click like and subscribe to help us continue spreading messages of hope, truth, and faith. Leave a comment below with your name and the city where you live, so we can lift you up in our prayers and send blessings your way. And if you felt touched by this experience, type AMM in the comments and let that word be a light in your life today. Don't stop here. There's another video waiting for you, or revelation that could change the way you see everything. Just click on the video appearing now on your screen. You won't regret it. Amen.